2-day event that has come back in the youth that are coming to me and telling me how it has affected their lives and how they want us to re-implement it. I have an insurance company in downtown Marysville, Galligan Insurance. I want to run programs. I have to protect my insurance. My insurance is sky high. I can't even begin to think what would happen if we lost the 2-story high windows in the Packard Library, because there's a piece of glass that is about to fall out of it. And the last time I checked was years ago, when it was about $25,000. I have a $5,000 cap on those windows. Now I want to address my homeless problem at the Packard. I'll be as brief as I can, but I can tell you that 2 days ago, I went to the Packard to get the weeds out of the sidewalk. We have the first sidewalks in the city of Marysville. I try to keep them up so that they don't go into repair. And I got to where the front of the library was, and I noticed there was a pumpkin carved nicely and sitting on a step. And then I noticed that there was garbage on the top. Well, it turned out not to be garbage. I walked up to the top of the stairs. I could tell it was a human being and a woman because she had small feet. I kicked her foot twice. She did not move. I came down here, caught one of our officers who was just leaving, and said, I don't know whether she's dead or alive. I'm going to continue cleaning the weeds. It's up to you folks. I don't even want to talk to her or see her. And he said, I'll get to her as soon as I can. He was already going out somewhere else. Our law enforcement, I know we don't have enough law enforcement. We don't have enough resources. I don't know when he finally got to her. I did what I needed to do there, and I left. If you came today and went, every single spot that is below ground is filled with trash. I found that if I clean it within 2 days, they've put it back. If I don't clean it, it just stays the way for week after week after week that it was. So from the homeless, this is what I get: trash, bodily fluids. My water was turned on. I'm making $50 a month payments personally to pay off the $1,900 water bill. I had them shut the water off because it was outside and the homeless could get to it. So, and thank you to your water department. They are working with me and I've gotten no complaints. The windows I've already talked about, the parking lot I've already talked about, the front entry with the homeless I've talked about. We've become, if you go down to the corner, right down here on 4th and anyway, go down to the corner and step on the lawn, and what you will find is we have become the dog parking lot. So the dogs, the homeless bring to the property. You cannot go on that property because you'll step in manure. The fencing, thank you very much to whoever put it up. I know it belongs to the city, to stop the homeless from sleeping, try to stop the homeless from sleeping up in that area. And the cops do check it, I do check it. The plywood that is blocking the doors. 3 weeks ago, I was in another state. I get a call telling me that they'd broken into the Packard Library 3-4 weeks ago. I can't keep up anymore. And I said, I'm out of state, call John Nicoletti. He's got a key to the building. He can get you in. Every single door was either broken into and every room was gone through. The air conditioner was turned on the 3rd floor. I didn't find it till this week. So the air conditioning has been running full time. Have no idea what that's going to cost. The lights were on and they had been through every part and piece of my private things that I filled it full of antiques. If it fits this area and it's downtown on sale, I'll put that antique couch in the building somewhere. I'm doing my best to turn it into what could be perceived as a historical building with historical furnishings. I've got the original round table out of the children's reading room that was donated to me. I mean, if you haven't been in there and haven't taken a tour, I'll gladly give you a tour to see what's in there. I spent thousands of dollars on this furniture, and I'm afraid they're going to break in one night and it's going to be gone the next day. dog park.
Ma'am, I'm being really liberal with time. There's a lot of people waiting to speak. If you could wrap it up.
Okay.
Again, I apologize, but we need to move.
I want to thank Stay Love, because when we were broken into, Stay Love responded and did what they could with the plywood, and also law enforcement and the fire department, because not only did our law enforcement go through, the next group that went through was the fire department and totally went through the building. So I appreciate your time and energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker will be Gail Davis.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us. Okay, I live at Butte Christian Manor, which is on F Street between 3rd and 2nd. And there's 3 types of traffic I'd like to talk about. The vehicle traffic is out of control. Very loud, goes by night, day, very fast on F Street. There's the homeless, which surrounds us there. We're in senior citizens, 100 of us in this building, and then we're surrounded by some homeless people that are very scary when you try to walk your dog or whatever. And they sleep on our grass. We have to get up in the morning and clean all that up. Sounds like everybody's going through this. We're really worried about the homeless that are having mental problems and on drugs. Across the street from where I live, there's a salvage yard. I'm not sure about what's going on over there, but there's a lot of traffic in the middle of the night, a lot. And we see people, we can look with our binoculars, they're going crazy. There's some kind of crazy drug out there too. So I'm hoping Net5 or something can come over and check it out, because the more drugs that are getting into these people, the more dangerous it is. Those meetings with you, Mayor, I think they are coming around more. Volunteer policemen, so
It shouldn't be that way over there. Jim, pardon me, the city manager wanted to be here for that. And I guess the word didn't get to you that we were going to.
Okay.
That's going to.
I understand that. It's just that, as you know, we were traveling and we made a commitment to come here. If we knew it was going to be pushed, then we would have stayed where we went, because we had a lot of things to do business-wise. And so we decided to come back because we knew the meeting was today. And it's not the first time that it's been pushed.
You're an apology, and I'll apologize to the city.
That's the only thing that, you know, it made me feel a little bit like pushed out. It's not only me. That lady's husband came last time from Utah to be in the meeting, and Utah is not around the corner. So in regards to that, that's it. Second thing about the stealing, I don't think it's only homeless people that are stealing from our businesses, the ones who own businesses. I think it's also low-life people. We have people riding their bikes and stealing our stuff. going away. I have spoken to the police chief. He mentioned that there is an ordinance for people in bicycles and skateboards not to be on the sidewalk. However, there is nothing that has been done about it. My suggestion is, at least if you can help by putting signs for people on bicycles and skateboards not to be on the sidewalk, because that's a big issue. Yesterday we had a guy going around our business for like 10 minutes until I went out, and he left right away. It tells me that he probably wanted to steal something. It happens to the other business around in the corner on this street and 4th. They steal every day from their business. I think it's called A Little Bit of Nothing. It's a Hispanic ownership also, but it happens to Marjorie and other businesses. So maybe you guys can help at least in that matter, and in regards to the homeless stealing also, if something can be done. That's it.
I'm going to allow myself a quick comment here. The state law that has effectively decriminalized shoplifting and theft, property theft below a $907 amount. And I'm certain they're thinking, well, pardon me, let me finish. I'm certain the thinking behind that was, well, Walmart can handle that. That's no big deal. But a $900 theft to a small business person might just kill their month.
Exactly.
No, I totally get it. And
Walmart, Safeway, all
that doesn't
the
mean
big
they can't be chased down, arrested. They may not be prosecuted, but at least you get the property back. And I'm going to, our chief of police is recovering from COVID. He's doing short days right now, and our city manager's at his son's wedding in New York this week. And I'm going to recommend to them that they replay this meeting and listen very carefully to all of this. And I'm not trying to stop it right now. I just, this is powerful testimony that we're hearing here today. And I want to tell you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. As we went on vacation the second day, our daughter was taking care of her business, and someone went inside the store and stole a bunch of things. Obviously, our daughter is not used to the business as we do. She was just helping, but someone went in and they just took a bunch of things. And like you said, us small businesses, it will kill us every time they do that. Walmart, Safeway, all the big companies, it's built into the budget for all their losses. But
yeah, they just raise the prices on the rest of us to pay for it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Maybe one more thing, I'm sorry. Maybe we can, if the police can't do anything because there is just a few officers trying to do a lot of things, maybe we can build a neighborhood watch and help each other.
No, there's solutions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Eduardo. And again, apologies on the mix-up on the schedule change. Sincere apologies. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker will be Martha Zuquiros.
Good evening.
We're getting the 1-2 punch here, aren't we?
Well, sometimes we have to.
You're welcome.
Thank you again for hearing us. The businesses, as a business that we're striving to attract business and customers for ourselves, but also to create foot traffic for our beautiful downtown. We're having a little trouble with that. We put our displays out and they look really cool. Peach Festival, Eduardo built this giant display and it looked totally awesome. And we got a lot of people that came in the doors, so many more people than we'd ever seen before. And we were really excited about it. And I was like, oh, well, let's do it again and let's do it again. But then someone takes something. I have a table outside, girl rides by on a bike and rips a pair of beautiful high heels off the table. Lucky for me, a nice gentleman from across the street from the gym noticed it. There was oddly enough, a homeless man sitting in the area by the shoe repair store. And he gave me a full description, what bike she was wearing, the color of her hair, what direction she was going. I called the police and our police force is amazing. They went down, they got her, brought me back my shoes. But as Eduardo says, the big companies, they build this into their budget. They can afford to write these things off. But like $900, that's our rent. If we lose $900 every month because of homeless people or children that just want to just think, oh, let's just take that, we're not going to survive. And we just want to make a living for ourselves, maybe pass it on to our children to create a better place for Marysville. We were very excited to come here. Eduardo was very excited when I told him what a wonderful city we have and how amazing it is. And the people are such wonderful people. And he believed me. Except now we're beginning to wonder if after our lovely travels across the country and back, maybe we want to move to another state, someplace else. Maybe I want to move back home. Maybe we want to move to Virginia where my sister lives. And I don't know, but we're really saddened by knowing we're on our trip and our daughter calls us and says, someone came in and stole this Frida Kahlo wallet, Mom. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. Obviously, we told her it's fine, and then we told her she was fired. Just kidding. Just kidding. She wasn't getting paid anyways. But, you know, it's really sad to hear what happened to Judy. It broke my heart. And what happens to everyone else that's doing this, knowing the clock repair place down, their window has been broken several times. It's really sad. The shoe repair store has a broken window. I'm sure that was probably homeless. It's very disheartening, and we need to come up with a new solution, something more than, and I appreciate, and we all appreciate that you are willing to listen to us, to air our grievances on this, but what are we gonna do? That's what we need to know. We need to hear an answer of what we're going to do. I'm one of those people that, well, I have a problem. Eduardo always says, no problems, only solutions. What are gonna be the solutions? That's what I'd like to know.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the kid riding around the bike over and over and over again, my sister-in-law, who is visiting us from Mexico, was also there. I mean, what if he had hurt her? What if something happened? I mean, how would we answer to my mother-in-law that we allowed damage to her daughter? I mean, this is just not, it's very saddening.
Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker will be Marjorie Wagner.
Welcome.
Hi there. First of all, I would like to thank Officers Souza, Fruit, and Perez of the Marysville Police Department. They were fantastic. When my iPad was stolen a couple weeks ago, I had a homeless man come in, and I was ringing up a sale, so I couldn't really pay attention to him, and he left shortly, and the next day I realized he stole my iPad. So it has a tracer on it. My husband got the tracer out. The police were there. 3 police officers went to the homeless shelter on F Street and got my iPad back for me, and I'm very thankful. I never thought I'd see it again. That probably wouldn't happen anywhere else, but you would get 3 officers to do that. And this is the positive part of Marysville that I would like to mention, because there's a lot of negative that people have said, and I would like to mention these 3 wonderful officers. And that is the kind of police that America needs. Now, on the negative side, the safety issue has become worse than Oakland. I am not kidding, because I worked in Oakland for a short period of time, and it is so dangerous owning a store here now. There's a new crop of homeless people. We used to have the same people kind of walking by, and they respected the businesses. They kind of knew that they weren't welcome, and they really didn't come in very often. They didn't even try. They walked by and they would kind of wave, but they never really invaded. But this is a new crop of, I believe, a couple told me that they come from Chico. They were chased out of Chico, and they're meth addicts, and they'll come in the door, and some of them are talking to themselves. They're not in their own mind. They just grab what they can and they steal something and run out, or they kind of confront you and actually get up in your face and try to, talk to you, I guess, but they're so hostile. And it's just, I just started seeing them for the last few months. I think that Chico had a big cleanup and got rid of a lot of the homeless that were under the bridge, and they've come to Marysville, and we're stuck with them. I mean, they are not the same type of people. They're much more hostile and aggressive, and being a woman alone in a business is really not safe. The other night on Saturday, and they come in, they don't come in the morning, they come in about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night. I had a speed freak come in and was rapping, just talking. And I told him I had to close. And he made me so nervous, and he wouldn't leave. He just kept talking to me. He didn't actually do anything. A lot of them will grab something and run. He didn't do that. But I got so rattled, I just closed up my business and left. And I thought, I don't know how much longer I can actually be alone. I can't afford to hire help. I cannot afford it right now. And I don't know how much longer I can actually be alone in a store in Marysville and not be attacked physically and feel safe. And I don't know what the solution is to that problem, but I really think that it's something we really have to, otherwise stores are going to be closing here. I mean, it's affecting other people, obviously. And the stores, we have a very thin margin of profit as it is. We're not just doing it as a hobby. So it's really, and I pay, sales tax, but I don't know I don't know what the answer is. I'm just telling you the situation. Thank you.
I think earlier I'd mentioned that I understand that Sacramento is having a major cleanup or purge or whatever you want to call it with respect to homeless today. And I'm worried we're going to get fallout from that. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker will be Michelle Smith Barker.
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My history for dealing with these same types of issues, we've had farmland that I've been a part of for over 30 years, and I deal with usually illegal campers, homeless, prostitution, drug dealing, stolen cars. About 2 years ago, I took it upon myself for the Simpson Lane and Feather River Boulevard area for what was going on there with what I refer to as illegal camping and tweakers. It was not just homeless people. So we have done well with keeping that going, but all of us farmers try to be diligent, help each other, make phone calls. We all share combinations to just keep them going and moving. And we all truly understand that if you speak to someone and ask them to leave your property, that if you don't follow up with law enforcement, that within 72 hours, they are now your permanent resident. And I had to do that for the farming neighbor on Simpson Lane, and it took me 8 months and 4 visits in front of the judge to clean out those 138 people that were on his property. Although he had a little bit of fault of starting and allowing what you don't allow 1 or 2, it's like cockroaches. So I am very endearing to all of this. But as far as our city of Marysville, one of my concerns is our churches that are feeding these people. I don't look at them as down and out and families that need help. What I'm seeing is the same people that I have ran off of Simpson Lane and Feather River Boulevard walking into town. I'm recognizing some of the bicycles and them in their backpacks, and they're coming to get this food. So I couldn't even tell you how many numbers of churches are feeding them. But to me, that is a draw. They're walking through our city. They're looking, they're peeing alongside the houses. They're doing all of these things. I feel that that needs to stop. I know there needs to be some type of food service or something, but not in our town. I mean, 20 miles from here, state of Nevada works good for me. But I mean, I know, but I know they have the same issues there that they deal with. But I do feel that some of that with the food is, and then we depend on people like Saleh and Kiwanis to clean up after them. I made a phone call the other day to the police department for a gal that was alongside the PG&E building. And she was spread out, sitting in her chair and everything. By the time I came back from the post office, the police were there. And I would imagine their call log for things like that is about like Yuba counties, which I'm trying to deal with a gentleman who is growing marijuana plants on my property and keeps parking his truck there. And my text was, I'm in training. I'm doing the best I can. I have 400 new cases, 110 ongoing cases. We just lost 2 officers, and I'm now absorbing their 250 cases. I'll be there as soon as I can. I want him off my property, and I want his marijuana off my property too. So I'm trying to take the next step to deal with that in the county. But I know the police, I was so pleased they responded immediately. All the trash is still there on A Street alongside of the PG&E building, and I know it's going to be Saleh or whomever to clean it up. The solutions, I think that would help us. I do believe the mastication, I believe it was City of Marysville property that happened last week off of Simpson Lane. We got to do more of that. What you did at East Ellis Lake, that is fabulous. I didn't realize there was like 16 homeless people living there, and I was always there at the ballpark. Those types of clearing areas, I feel that we need to be frugal about helping each other and making phone calls. I almost kind of hated making the call to the City of Marysville because I know that there are drugs and rapes and burglaries and all that. And I'm calling saying, hey, there's a lady sitting outside of PG&E. I'd like to have that Yuba City 311 app where you can just type in something and then it gets answered, because I'm taking up a dispatcher and a phone call and a logging. So if that could, help anyway, anyone, I would love to see something like that. I do believe what I had learned over this last almost 2 years that I've been working with the farmlands in the county, a cleanup. I believe we were told every time that something happens, make a call. It gets logged. I know there's other priority issues. If it can't get addressed, it's at least on the log, and then you can apply for more grants. So I encourage everyone, make every call, and they can't respond to every one of them, but now we apply for grants. And if our lovely governor is giving out money, I'm making sure I want some of it for right here. One of my concerns was the woman that just spoke about the senior care home that I learned in the town hall meeting a couple months ago down on F Street. I think it's horrid that they can't go out and walk their dogs. They're concerned about tweakers and the pit bulls that are attacking their animals and so on. One of the suggestions that I got that I refused to ask what she complied me was, I got a phone call from the mayor of the homeless, and she asked me to always call her first and not to call the sheriff out in our counties, because she had a way of talking with them. And I reminded her, I said, I believe when I cleaned up Simpson Lane, your name was on the affidavit of the 138 people. I will not be calling you. I do not need you here. And if you step on the property, you will be arrested. We've signed papers, as they were mentioned before, with the Yuba County Sheriff to enter all of our farmlands at any given time and do arrests without even not even us having to initiate a phone call. I think that's it. I think my concern is our churches that keep feeding and drawing these people into alongside our homes and down our streets.
We've chatted before. You are a very effective spokesperson, and
I'm very loud.
No, you are clear, and you make your points beautifully, and this is tragic, but we've got to hear it all.
Well, but we all have to work together. And when someone else mentioned something earlier, we all need to do a neighborhood watch, but God, I can't do it on the night shift. I'm too old. And that's when you got to do it. They go through our trash cans. I can't stand that, because if you made the mistake of putting your address or a bill or something in there. So, we deal with that. But it's all of us together making the calls, even though they can't be responded. An app like Yuba-Cities would be amazing. Everyone has a phone. Hopefully they can do that. And then you apply for more grants and we get more officers. And I know that, you know, it's a lot on code enforcement, but that's what I'm hoping for. Okay.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Oh, it doesn't get any better than that. Oh, my. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker will be Craig Russell.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, she was my third grade teacher too.
Get right into the microphone like our last speaker. She knew what she was
Okay.
doing.
My name is Dr. Craig Russell. I am a chiropractor at 905 G Street, right next to the Salvation Army where the other lady was talking about. Boy, I got a lot of stories to tell. I have been in practice in Marysville for 21 years, and I have seen a steady decline in my neighborhood. And it used to be just the occasional needle that I'd find in the bushes, the human excrement everywhere. And now it is people sleeping on my porch during my business hours, laying right in front of the door. About 2 months ago, I wanted to take care of it myself, but I know that I'm the one that would get in trouble. But I had to go out and escort elderly women into my office, and we have to do something. About 6 months ago, my office manager got to the office before I did. She was about a half an hour before I did, and I walked in and she was physically shaking and scared to death. A guy tried to she just happened to be walking towards the door as a homeless man was walking up the steps. And the first thing she did is she just grabbed onto the handle of the door and held it. And he was fighting her, tugging, trying to get in. And he said, "I need to use the phone." And she said, "No, we're not open right now. You need to leave." And luckily she's very strong and she was able to fight him off. And I showed up about 5 or 10 minutes later and she was a mess. That's one of the stories. Another story is, I'm sure you've seen the homeless lady in the wheelchair that has the pit bull. We were trying to get her to leave. This is about a year ago. She wouldn't leave and got combative, and I wasn't there at the time. Again, it was on our lunch break. The same gal, Judy, my office manager, got into a confrontation with her and was telling her she needed to pack up her stuff and leave. And the dog started getting aggressive with her. Thank God they held the pit bull back. But in the conversation, the lady started calling her every name in the book, some of the worst names you can think of, and told her, "I have a 38 in my bag. Don't make me pull it out." So this is not just about a nuisance. This is about safety. And I for the last 4 years, I've got my CCW, and I never thought that I'd have to carry a weapon on me to practice chiropractic, but I have to have a weapon on my premises at all times because I don't know what's going to happen next. So by inactivity, we're going to encourage vigilantism, because I've heard it from several people in town that at some point we're going to have to take care of the problem ourselves. And so that's the last thing I want to do. I mean, I've lived in this area for 50 years. And I was told when I was opening my practice, I was told, open your practice in Marysville, you'll never make it. Well, I've made it, but I get complaints on a daily basis. I see 50 patients a day, and I bet 50% of them have a complaint about the camp that's right in my parking lot right next to us. And a big problem, I think the city council needs to go talk to the Salvation Army, because people are just dumping their crap right behind the Salvation Army. And we need cameras back there or something to get license plates of these people that are dumping and start finding the people that are dumping, because they dump. The other day they dumped 3 couches out there, and now we got homeless people camped out on the couches. They're just sitting there all day long having a good time, nice and comfortable. So the trash, the physical threat of violence, it has to stop. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker will be Michael Reed on Zoom.
I don't see anybody. Oh, on Zoom. Oh, Michael. Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Branscombe and City
Welcome,
Council.
Michael.
Thank you for the welcome. I want you to think about 3 words tonight that really I think are starting to sum up the saga that you're hearing from multiple community members. The word pandemic, the word epidemic, and the word legacy. And explain. Certainly we are all aware we've been in a global pandemic, and we've come up with both national, state, and local solutions to combat that. But what you're hearing tonight from city businesses, from the historical landmarks, from our local landowners, is that we're in an epidemic. We're in an epidemic of homelessness, vagrancy, and panhandling. I'm here tonight because I currently serve as the president of the Marysville Elks Lodge. The lodge, as you know, located at 920 D Street between the 800 and 900 block on the west side of Ellis Lake, was built in 1926. If you've ever entered that lodge for something like a prom, a wedding reception, a quinceanera, a birthday party, a retirement event, or other local various fundraisers that we've hosted, you'll see a wall of gentlemen and women who've served as past officers for this lodge. It's almost a who's who of Marysville. In fact, I know there are council members here that have relatives that you could probably find a picture of that person on that wall. And we, just like all the folks that spoke tonight, are having the same issues. Multiple windows broken out, camping on the property, theft, our water spigots torn out, trash dump, human feces and urination, drug paraphernalia and drug exchange, and theft. We have 230 members. Their average age is just below 70 years old. And these are the taxpayers of our community. They come to the lodge because they're seeking a place of solace, a fellowship, of people like them that are interested in doing the same philanthropic things that support the Yuba-Sutter community. In fact, over the last year, our lodge is probably responsible for infusing about $15,000 in student scholarships, support for the Yuba-Sutter Stand Down event, other local charities, and particularly events for youth. We see this same issue day in and day out. One of our solutions has been to have volunteer members who get up as early as 5 o'clock in the morning and come down and patrol our building, because they know almost invariably they're going to find somebody camping, tucked under some kind of place, whether it be a tree or something, on our property. We certainly share with Charlene and the Arts Council, because the park is next door between Carl's Jr. and that building is frequently inhabited by a homeless or vagrant population. But like many have said, problems all need solutions, and this is where the epidemic piece can be solved by the members of this community. It may start with zones of no tolerance, where concentrated effort is put in a particular area. It may go and resort to on-foot police officers, visible and present, possibly the use of grant money for bright lights, where people can be seen doing the things they shouldn't be seen doing. A no tolerance area under guard. It has to be made uncomfortable. It has to be made incredibly uncomfortable so that the people who want to do these things aren't allowed to do them. The final word is legacy. First of all, I applaud you for being a council member, and you, Mayor, for the position you're in right now. You've had to face the pandemic. You're now facing this epidemic, and it takes a lot of courage to listen to the public talk about the place that all of you love, Marysville. But what will the legacy be here? What are you going to choose to do? You take an incredible amount of information in from this community, and it's obvious that the problem is persistent. I, for one, would be happy to serve on any subcommittee or ad hoc group that would want to combat this. And I think the people you have sitting in this audience tonight would want to do the same thing. We want to be solutions-based. We have to be solutions-based, because I believe, in all honesty, the city of Marysville is at risk. When you hear, again, your city businesses, you hear your historical groups, you hear your local populace, even citizens who just live in the residences, talk about what this epidemic has produced. You have to provide action. So, City Council, Mayor Branston, there's a lot of trust in this room that you guys are going to produce and help with the assistance needed. And of course, in any way we can, and myself particularly as a citizen, I'd be happy to help. I don't think I need to elongate anymore what the epidemic is. But I would like to say, what do you want your legacy to be as a public official? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, before we continue, I love cool weather, cool air, and I've got a jacket on, and I'm freezing. Am I the only one? I see a lot of people out there, arms crossed and what have you. I knew I wasn't the only one as I observed it. Thank you. Oh, thank goodness the fan's off. I've been extremely, normally it's 3 minutes. I knew a lot of people wanted to talk about this and I didn't want to take away from anything. If somebody's already spoken to what you wanted to speak to, I'm trying to move things along, but I'm not going to hold any. If someone wants to speak, I'm going to open the door, and if you could keep it to 3 minutes, that'd be nice. I'm not going to bang the gong on you, but it would be nice. Okay, Madam Clerk.
As of right now, our last speaker will be Kelly Rich Creek.
Kelly, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice chat the other day.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Hi, I'm Kelly Rich Creek, and a lot of people may be already aware that I have invested quite a bit in this town. Money-wise, probably $500,000 in Marysville. I own a home downtown. I live downtown, and I bought a building, a historic building in downtown, and the only reason I bought it was I saw the potential that we all do in downtown Marysville, and I wanted to be part of making a positive difference. So I'm going to focus just on the downtown. And we had so many good speakers tonight. So I can totally relate. And I just want to, before I forget, because I didn't put it in my notes, that the idea, the solutions brought forth, beg repeating, because we've talked about this years ago. Where I live happens to be across from one of the churches that gives out food, and we've talked to city officials at that time, but we're talking 8 years ago, that probably was not a good thing to do in downtown, because it was just attracting, given a reason, and enabling. We're not against helping homeless. No one in this room probably is against helping the truly homeless person. What we're finding is people that are declining services. They don't want to be helped. We're finding drug-related people, we're finding mentally ill, and we're dealing with it extremely in downtown. I'm just only going to give a few examples. And I too don't have anything against our police. I think they're doing the best they can, and I really feel for them. But I'm just going to give examples that kind of make things, and I know you've heard some, but I'm just astounded. In downtown, a couple examples. In the middle of the day, I asked a woman sitting on the sidewalk who was in front of one of the businesses. So the building I have has 3 businesses in it, and she was sitting in front of the gallery, and there was going to be something going in the gallery. And that's, we want to attract business in our downtown, and it's not attractive to see people sitting on our sidewalk with litter all around them, with their clothes, cardboard boxes, and it's all daily. I mean, I can give you a list. I said I wouldn't. Okay, I'm going to stick to the point. So I asked her to leave. I asked her nicely. I said, you know, could we have classes? You know, there's going to be people going in there. If you really can't stay here, you know, there's a public park. You can go over to the public park in the middle of the day. She came later, and this is in the afternoon, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and right in front, she squatted and peed in front of the entrance of one of the businesses. Okay, we did call the police. I always try to call the police, but sometimes it's hard for businesses to take the time to call the police. And I do agree with, we need to log it in. So keep doing that if you can, but it's hard. The other example that I think will give us some insight into the problem is another woman has been sitting on the street in different parts since last year. Same woman. I spoke to her last year, said, hey, you can go to the Life Center to get help. Then the following year, I saw the same woman. She said, oh, they have that. Then I saw her last week. Okay, I'm jumping ahead. Same woman. I said, are you still on the street? Have you not gotten help? Oh, I went to the Life Center. They kicked me out. I said, why did they kick you out? I don't know. And then she started kind of getting a little sassy with me, and I just calmed her down. I said, I'm just concerned. Tell me what happened. So she said, I don't know. Why don't you ask them? I said, you know what? I am. So I went over to the Life Center. I've been meaning to go over there because I feel like as a community, we need to know about that place. And that's part of our problem. We don't communicate with one another. What resources, what do they have over there? They were really nice. That I just described the woman. He said, yeah, I was the one that kicked her out. I kicked her out because she was disrespectful. She was cussing and she was swearing. And here's the interesting part that's really important to know. He said, we give her 3 strikes and that's it. They don't get to come back, which they should be like that. I mean, we're helping them out. They should be respectful. I also learned they have 24 beds. I'm just going to say this. You might already know all these things, but it's good for everyone to know. And they're not full. They will help people up to 9 p.m. at night. So if you see someone on the streets, they could maybe possibly get a bed over there if they weren't struck out 3 times. But we have a problem. What do we do with these people that are struck out 3 times? So that's why I bring that up. I do come with a solution. I don't know if I got all my examples in.
Let's go with the solution.
All right. One solution I totally agree with. I didn't get the woman's name about no longer having the churches hand out food. That is a huge draw. I do talk to the homeless people. They're not from around here. I remember reading years ago that they're all from here. No, they're not. I just spoke to another man last week when I was over talking to Life Center. He came here from Montana. You know, why are we attracting these? Why are we have to find out what is attracting them? I think it's because we have good services here. We give food, we have, you know, you know, they have, anyways. Okay. So Mr. Mayor, I'm going to get to the solution that I really think would help a lot of our problems that I hear tonight is have an officer, if we can, assigned to downtown, but not in a car, on foot or a bike. Because if they see, like we don't have time as businesses to do our police, and we don't have time to police our area, although we're doing it. But just an example, we have bike riders on the streets, boom. And the businesses we have older people, we have people walking out of the shop, and these people are boom, and they could easily knock them down. So what we started doing, and the police could do this as well, and I'm going to share this with the other business owner, another business owner around, we're talking, you know, we're kind of nervous about approaching them. We feel our safety imposed, but we're tired of it. And so I started just yelling out, walk your bike, just like your old mom used to do when we were kids. Just do something, and we're tired of putting up with it. You know, walk your bike. So if we had a policeman though, because just last week I'm walking down, they had a meeting down at the Silver Dollar. I walked down there, there's someone sleeping on the sidewalk. It's all over all day. And if we had someone just walking, just in the historical area every day, they're gonna, just as the woman said, we have to, or the man on the Zoom maybe said it, we have to make them feel uncomfortable. We don't want them to feel comfortable. They're gonna continue this, and it's just unsafe. And I'm sure I left something out, but I'll leave it at that and email what I forgot. Thank you.
Kelly, thank you. Madam Clerk, is that the last speaker?
Yes, it is, Mayor.
I think and perhaps my fellow council members would like to speak also. Thank you. When we speak about these things in a general sense, it may seem like we don't care like you do. We do. I'm angry at this. And certainly the state has made things more difficult for us. But we're here in California, and we have to optimize within a suboptimal situation. And I will personally, we can't all get together in a closed session with city manager and the chief of police, but I will personally ask that they both review this portion of this meeting, and I will go through it again and take notes, and then see what that leads to, see if that can lead to something. Any of my...
Yeah, me first.
Whoever hit it first.
All right. I am highly frustrated with you guys just as much. I was trying to spend a little bit of time here trying to find the assembly bill that our wonderful governor signed, making pretty much homeless a protected class. And it's highly unfortunate, and it's pretty much handcuffed us in a lot of ways. I mean, I wanted to cite the bill number to you because I read it and I was infuriated when I read it, and I'm just as mad right now seeing what's going on with you guys as a particular business owner. It's I've had personal experiences in my own establishment, and I'm not advocating, but I handled it myself, and it was dirty the way it was handled, but it he went up to me. He came back the next night, and my cameras caught him breaking my windows. So, you know, it's highly unfortunate, and I hate it. I mean, I want to sit out there with my paintball gun now, but I can't. It's a frustrating thing, and I am a huge fan of what our law enforcement, both county and city, have been able to do. And I wish we could afford to put 20 officers on the streets and have a presence. But we can't. We got a very limited budget in this city, and that budget is only here because of you, the business owners, just like myself. I'm sorry you're going through it, and I wish we could go in the 70s and have, what do they call that? Angels whatever the case is, that, you know, used to wear the beret caps. I don't know. It's not always a good idea, but it's one of those things that it's infuriating to sit here all this time and listen to the stories that happen, but I've heard them, and we're always going to hear them, unfortunately, until we can figure out a way to confound it. The suggestions were good. I'm not a fan of building it and they will come, but we have built, and we have done some things here that, you know, attracts. When we had the Habitat community build the 24 beds there, I was not a fan of it, but the other side of it is that we're following this ridiculous law, state forward by the state, that if there's a place that we can send them, then we can actually force them off the street physically. And so at that particular juncture, I says, well, double-edged sword, which one's going to cut worse? I okayed that idea because we need to do something at that particular point. It's unfortunately confounding, and it's like kicking the can or punting, you know, for time, whatever the case is. There's really not a whole lot that can happen until the state uncuffs us, and we kind of go from there. And I'm so sorry that we're all in this. It really, really stinks. But thank you for voicing your opinions tonight, guys. And I really hope that we can come through and come up with some viable solutions within the ridiculous rules of the state and go from there.
Thank you, Councilman Hudson. Councilman Belson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And in the same way, I'll share a little bit here, your story about the child being exposed to that hits home for me. Obviously, a lot of you know I've got small girls, and so we see it. Councilman Hudson, you're 100% right. Yeah, I feel like our hands are tied in what we can do. Our police are exhausted in dealing with it, and it's frustrating. I'll share with you, I've got a piece of property out in Linda that our family owns, and we've been inundated with homeless living on it. And Michelle, I guess she left, but I sympathize 110% with the struggles that she goes through. And just even this last week, I had an encounter with a camper on our own personal private property. And I was gracious with them. And I said, hey, you're trespassing. You've got to be out of here by tomorrow morning. I'll give you a day to pack up your belongings, get out. And he responded very crudely to me. So I said, well, you don't get a day anymore. I'm calling the sheriff. I've learned I don't get out of my pickup truck. He came at me with a baseball bat, my pickup truck. So I spun some Brodies around him, parked on the other end of the property, called the sheriff, and got the sheriff to come out and eradicate it. But it's something that we all deal with on different fronts. I don't have a business downtown, but we all deal with it. And when I was living on Triplet Way, this was probably 6 years ago, I actually had a homeless guy come down Triplet Way, knocking on doors asking for change. And my first daughter was just born, and my wife was there by herself, and he tried to force his way through our front door as my wife's there with a 3-month-old baby, and call the police, get him involved. Luckily, my wife was able to get the door closed and lock the door, and she knows how to take care of herself, so she was well armed in case the person decided to come in. Point is that we've all got stories that fall into this. I voted for this, for the beds as well, solely on the purpose that the emergency beds gave our officers the ability to remove illegal camping in our parks and around Ellis Lake and doing it. And every step has just led us deeper and deeper into this awful situation. And, you know, on the other side, I got to speak about this. And I had this conversation with Chief Sachs a little bit ago about the homeless. The things that we've done here on the enforcement side and on how to handle it, we're actually being contacted by other cities that are desperate for solutions, that are contacting Marysville saying, hey, in Northern California, you guys are you guys are the only ones actually having any kind of impact on this. How do we implement some of these things? Crazy, right? Yeah.
2 Fridays ago, I was down in Sacramento and met with a friend of mine. I ended up, it was a horrible place to eat lunch. Don't tell them I said this. Ended up on Stockton Boulevard in South Sacramento. As far as you could see, block to block to block, tents lined up on each side of the street, prostitution blatantly going on in the street, drug use, drug dealing, you name it, across the board. And I see that and I go, holy moly, you know, this is, I'm a local guy. I don't get out of the fields very much. And so I don't go down to the city. I hear about San Francisco, Oakland, these different areas, but I saw it firsthand what is happening across our state. And so much of it is by leniencies coming out of Sacramento. And so we're in this jam. This is definitely an issue, definitely a topic. It's not something to just be shrugged off. I hope that you don't, as the public, don't feel like we as a council are just shrugging you off. We're trying to find, and I make the commitment too, to try to find ways to mitigate this much more efficiently and effectively. And this is definitely something that needs to go into a much more robust conversation. And I'd like to request that sometime in a future meeting, whether the next one or the one after that in November, that we develop, or even on a Saturday, we develop some type of a town hall dialogue that we can open up conversation and have specific dialogue. And I don't know which way, you know, I believe a town hall type meeting is what needs to happen in order to achieve that, so that we can brainstorm and come up collectively as a community, involve our city management, involve our police chief.
Discussion item and have a town hall meeting right here.
Absolutely. And this is definitely something that needs to happen. So.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Gilchrist.
So I'm all about this town hall suggestion that Councilman Belza just mentioned. I think it's really important that we have a town hall meeting. Usually they're best to have them on Saturdays or Sundays. And I would like to invite the Homeless Consortium President, Johnny Burke, to be in the town hall. And I'll tell you why. The state has put us in this situation, okay? The state of California. I lived in San Francisco 4 years ago, and it's a systemic problem. There's career individuals in the Tenderloin. It is obnoxious. I moved because I couldn't take it. And so, my perspective is a bit different because I've seen hideous things that no one should ever see. And I'm, seeing little bits of it here, but I think it's a good idea if you were to hear the statistics from Johnny Burke and others, for those few that are not in the three categories that are chronic homeless, that do not want help. They love it. They love their lifestyle. And it usually has something to do with having a pet that they have to have, and none of the homeless environments will accept pets. And can you imagine choosing to, come on. So I think it would be a good idea if we had a town hall meeting, because, the city of Marysville, there are no tent cities like you find in other cities. Here in Marysville, our police department has done a pretty good job of removing any tents if they're in place. But it's really all about lighting. In this town hall, we can talk about how to mitigate as much as possible, and to put together neighborhood watches. I've taken notes from each and every one of you that spoke today, and I really appreciate your input. And I'm going to leave it at that. Town hall.
I think it's healthy for everyone to take the attitude, and I'm going to borrow from a 1970s movie, mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to draw the line as hard as we can, and if you cross the line, thank you. Thank you all who came to speak to this issue, and we now must move on to other business. We have some folks here who have been very patient. They thought they'd be earlier in the agenda, but I'm certain they appreciate the fact that we went with this matter first. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I'm looking at my agenda here now. Why don't we take about a 3-minute break here and allow everybody to Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We can show you how. Live streaming can be simple and not expensive. You may already have the basic tools right in your hand. But it's more than just pushing live to communicate effectively. That's where Yuba-Sutter.live and Live Streaming YS on Facebook can help you. Make it easy to jump in. Just give us a call at 530-301-2931 or visit our website, www.yuba-sutter.live. Yuba-Sutter's home of live streaming and live streaming tools, live streaming services, technology, and training. Live streaming is Yuba-Sutter.live. All aboard!
That was time well spent. Oh, yeah, no, this is what we need to do. Here's the problem. We're sleeping. Go to lab to sleep here. You can't have it. It says guys behind Gordon's house. They're back in there at night. Shine the flash line on those guys and didn't even approach them. Maybe they got another call. Of course, I'm not.
Discussion and action item 1, yes.
All right.
I'm not doing it all over. I'm gonna roll with this. Whether you're here in person or attending via Zoom, when called upon, please give your name clearly for audio recording. If you have any documentation you'd like to be distributed to the council, please mail it to City Clerk, 526 East Street, Marysville, 95901. First matter, wastewater treatment ponds closure project. Recommendation, pass a motion to authorize the city manager to sign Bennett Engineering Amendment number 2 in an amount not to exceed $436,432 to cover additional work required by the State Water Resource Control Board and construction management for the wastewater treatment plant pond closure project. Try saying that 3 times fast. Jennifer Stasinski, and you are, let's see, you're acting city manager today, is that correct?
That is correct.
Ma'am, please proceed.
So good evening, Mayor and council members. I am here to start the discussion to be able to amend the contract for Bennett Engineering for the decommissioning of our wastewater ponds. We do have Stacy Lynch here from Bennett Engineering who I'll be turning this over to, and she'll be doing most of the presentation and answering your questions. This is happening because we do have a cease and assist order for our sewer ponds. We have successfully created our transmission line, and now our sewer is working and running to Linda County, it's water district. So now our next step in this process is the decommissioning of the sewer ponds. So this is coming to us. We currently have a $6 million grant through the state revolving fund, and we've actually requested 7.4 million for the project, and it is currently going through the rungs and is being approved at hopefully at 7.4 million to be able to cover all the costs, including this additional amount that's being added for construction management to be able to cover the cost of the decommissioning of the ponds. So I'm going to turn it over to Stacy to answer any questions that you may have about the project and about how we got here.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. She said I'm Stacy Lynch with Bennett Engineering. I'm working on this project currently. Thanks for having me, Mayor and council members. I'm the civil engineer project manager for this project, and I am working to decommission the existing wastewater ponds. You guys built a pump station to pump your wastewater that you collect in the city to the Linda County wastewater treatment plant. And the remainder of the project is to remove the sludge from the wastewater ponds to decommission the pond system that you have. It's a requirement by the Regional Water Quality Control Board, who issues your permit. You guys have a WDR permit to operate a wastewater treatment plant for the city of Marysville. And they issued this cease and desist order years ago, and that's why we did the big did the big project to build the pump station and send it all to Linda County as the regionalization project. And so this part of it is just the final steps. I was hired to do that portion of the project. It's a pretty simple project from the get-go, it seems like. Just remove the sludge. It has to go to a class 2 landfill because it's contaminated wastewater sludge, and regrade the site. Seems pretty simple in and of itself, but there's a few other nuances, and I'm just going to go through them quickly because I realize we have some new council members and I haven't been here in a long time. So I'll just bear with me for just a second, and then you guys can ask me whatever questions you want. So I'm working on a grant fund for, it's about 7.4 million right now, which covers construction, design, my contract design, construction management, any city fees that, not fees, but city time that the city puts in, staff time that they've incurred on this project. And then some of the planning that was done in previous years by a previous consultant to come up with this this regionalization project and some of the time that they've done on that. So I've itemized all of that. I've submitted the funding application with the State Water Resources Control Board. It's through their state revolving fund. We call that SRF. And it's taken me 2 years to get here, but we are in the final stages of approval. We should have that draft grant agreement from them in the next few months. We plan to go to bid for the construction contract in early next year. So maybe February, March time period. I think the end result of this will be to rescind the WDR permit with the Regional Water Board, so that you guys don't have to keep reporting and maintaining things to their satisfaction. And then you'll have an open site to do what you may with that land.
So this 436,000 additional.
Yes.
That pushes this whole thing across the finish line and we're done?
That's correct.
And may I ask a question?
Yep.
Jennifer, is this contract been reviewed? How has it been reviewed internally?
It has been reviewed. Craig Platt, or the Public Works Director, was the one who was initially reviewing and went through this, has been in open discussions with Stacy for several months as the contract was coming through and the questions were coming up. Plus, City Manager, Mr. Shad, and I have also had conversations with Stacy about the contract and have reviewed what's in there.
And do you both recommend?
We do. The reason for the additional amount for construction management is also due to the fact that we don't have enough management to actually run this program ourselves. And so we would like to hire Bennett Engineer to be able to finish the completion.
Was this amount foreseen and forecast in our budget?
No, it is not, because it would, if the whole grant comes through, will be 100% reimbursed from the state revolving fund and will not be costing the city any finances.
So that puts the city at risk until, or
The-
we're not going to proceed until we get that grant. How's
Correct.
that
We
work?
will know if we have the grant by the time we actually move forward with any of the costs that are being associated with this amendment.
So let me just really nail this down. So we're not going to, we're teeing this up, right? And with the grant, then we go, but without the grant, we tee it up and we wait until we get the grant money. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll clarify one thing. A majority of this large amendment is for construction management and inspection of the contractor while they're working on the project out in the field. So daily inspection and management and managing all their pay requests and all of that. None of that will happen until we get a grant. And if we don't get a grant, we're not going to go to construction because the city doesn't have any money.
Let me ask you, and I don't know this. Do you involve yourself and your firm in the application for the grant?
Yeah, I did it all myself.
I presumed you did. I just want to
Yes,
get that on the record. So that being said, what do you think the chances of success in the grant are?
99% sure.
Okay.
Yes. And the way this works, this grant and others are different, but the way this one works is we'll get what's called an installment sale agreement. That's the initial contract, the initial agreement. We'll get that first. That will come in the next couple of months for your review and approval. And then once that's in place, you're able to submit reimbursements for anything that was spent to date. And so we will be able to, the city will be able to bring in some more money before we can start construction. And then once that comes in, we should be able to then go to bid for construction. And once we get the bids, then we do what's called a final budget approval. These are all their terms. Final budget approval to get the final contract amount, the final grant amount.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Kind of a double-edged sword, and I thank you for your patience and hanging out for tonight. But I know that we've been talking about this for a couple of years now with decommissioning of the ponds. Does this have anything to do also with decommissioning of the old pump sewer SBR system that's on the same levee, or are you just dealing with sediment in the ponds?
The pump sewer, can you?
The systematic batch recirculation system, you know, where our old sewer plant. The plant
the
facility.
old treatment plant.
Yeah.
That is not part of this project.
Okay.
They are not, the regional board is not requiring that we decommission that entire area. So we're leaving it.
Well, I wasn't quite sure because there's been a lot of things that come across this dais here in the past couple of years since I've been here, and I couldn't remember exactly where that said. I know that we want to redevelop that ground where the sediment is and so forth, and I wasn't quite sure. Maybe Jennifer, you can help me out. Were we keeping that as an crud if the Linda water connection didn't work or something along those lines?
Possibly, no.
Thank you, John.
Sorry, John's going to answer that.
No, it's all good. Yeah, when we lose the permit. Thank you for the reminder. Ding, ding.
Yes.
I just remember that.
That was the trigger. The cease and desist order is because these ponds are within the flood area. So
Right.
during the big Oroville dam break, it flooded the
2017,
ponds, and that
yeah,
was the
yeah.
original problem. But to answer your question, the treatment plant, the old treatment plant has an old clarifier, an underground circular storage basin, and that is currently being used as an overflow for that big pump station. So if that thing cannot handle the flows to Linda or the pumps break or whatever, it would go into this clarifier. And that's the limits of how much storage you have. Anything beyond that cannot go to the wastewater treatment, to the ponds, the pond site. That is
Okay.
a no-no.
Okay. Thank you for answering that, and thank you, John, Jennifer. I was just curious about it. I'd like to see that land, repurposed for something else eventually. And we're not going to do anything until we are awarded the grant. What do you think the final date of this completion would be for your
We
end?
are required to have it done by December 2022.
So a year?
Construction completed, yeah.
1 year.
And I have a
okay.
big report to turn in at the end. After construction is completed, I have to tell them, the regional board, how much sludge we removed, where it went, a lot of stuff. We have to test the soil underneath the sludge to make sure that it was removed, and we put that all into a big report, and that is due by December 31st, 2022.
Awesome. Thank you for work. Appreciate it.
To kind of go back to that secondary emergency, holding tank that you mentioned, or that basin that you mentioned. John, maybe you can speak to this too. If I remember right, and when Craig was here, I spent some time with him going through our sewer system. But also, isn't it available to us in an emergency situation, that small holding basin that's on the city side of the levee, right across from the old, where the Life Center building is, across the street from there? I thought Craig mentioned to me at one point that we had.
What we have for emergency storage, they actually converted the primary or the clarifier into it's more of a buffer than the actual storage facility. But between the clarifier and then there's a lined pond that used to be the sludge beds that we dug out. But the combined total of that's just under 1 million gallons. So that's not a whole lot in a peak flow situation. That's not even a day.
I think that's what Craig had mentioned to me too. And the fear is we've got one line going from our facility, right, that's going under the river over to Linda. And if there is some type of a damage or something that happens to that line, can we make it for a period of time and people can flush their toilets, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like that capacity. I'm just curious.
I think it calculated out at roughly just under 1 million gallons between the line basin and the clarifier that's been converted. I know that's one of the things that was in discussion, is if in the future there could be some grant funding or some force, because there's still 2 trickling filters that could be removed and expand the line pond for possibly a bigger emergency storage basin.
Okay.
Because that's the other thing, is the flow allowed into the Linda County pipeline is limited at the equivalent of, I think, 3.2 million gallons per day for a flow rate. So that's part of the reason why what happens is when that flow's exceeded, there's a valve that opens up and it starts filling up the clarifier. And that's a surge. And the hope is that that's just a peak flow from what they call I&I, which is usually you get storm water into the sewer system, the infiltration. And so, usually once the rain starts falling off, then your peak flow in your sewer goes down. So that peak should be a very short duration. And then so you'd get back within the allowed pumping range, and then that goes back down to it gets pumped back down to the main pump facility, and then it pumped out. So it's kind of like they call it like a surge basin.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there is not a big allowed storage for if there was a pipeline failure or something along that lines.
Thank you.
I skipped over whether or not there's any public comment. Any public comment on this?
Not tonight, Mayor.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Okay, what's wrong with the council?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
It's unanimous.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your patience and an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. I'd like to see Bill's going to engineering. Okay, we move on. Next, check me here. Awarding a contract for construction of the improvements for the 2021 SB1 resurfacing project 21-02. Recommendation: pass a motion to adopt an appropriately numbered resolution awarding a contract in the amount of
$441,843.80.
You're right on time. With Lehman Construction Company for the construction of the resurfacing project based on the improvement plans and contract document bid schedules A through C. Mr. John Mallon, are you going to be presenting that, or are you going to do this, Jonathan?
I will do a quick introduction and then be bringing John forward.
Thank
So,
you, ma'am. Please
good-
proceed.
So good evening again, Mayor and council members. So we are here tonight to bring forth 3 bids in for construction through SB1 projects. So we have a 2019 list of projects that were approved, and these are 3 of them that fall within the current budget that we have. We currently have around a SB1 budget of around $560,000 for current projects, and these 3 projects will pretty much take up that amount, and that's why these were chosen. And I'm going to let John actually go through any questions that you have, what projects that are happening, and if you need any additional numbers, please let me know.
Thank you.
Yes, everybody gets excited.
John, welcome.
All right. Yes. So Jen kind of gave her as much of the information as she could. So yes, this is what we call the SB1 project. So we tried to put together a project that we hope would fit within the money available for the SB1 project. And part of this has gotten delayed because we were waiting to wrap up the ATP project, and we were worried about potential cost overruns on it. We've pretty much finalized the numbers on that. It came within the original budget, so we're not going to have to use any SB1 funds for that project. And then the other project we were also waiting on was the 5th Street rehab project, which we've gotten authorization from Caltrans to move forward with construction. We have all the construction funding from the grants. So yeah, Jen.
Just a note on that, that will be coming to the next council meeting, as we have to have a resolution. So we'll be giving you more information in 2 weeks.
And we'll be advertising it for bid.
Okay, thank you. Through the chairman, if I can real quick.
Please proceed.
So the 5th Street project still has to go out for RFP, request for proposal?
We're putting it out for construction bids.
For the bids, okay. Because what you're talking about ABC tonight is the 5th, 1st, all those, the 5th.
Yeah, yeah, this project was originally bid out, we bid it out into 4 segments.
Right.
The first segment was B Street from 3rd to 1st. The second segment was 1st Street from B to the E Street Bridge.
Copy.
Then the 4th segment was F Street from 3rd to 5th. And then the last segment was F Street from 3rd to 10th.
So ABC, was there a D in there or?
Oh, sorry. That was ABC. D was the F Street 3rd to,
okay.
Or, from 5th to 10th.
So is D not on the plate tonight? Because I'm only seeing, oh, I apologize. The schedule's A through D. My bad.
Yeah, we're doing A through C. D exceeded the budget.
Copy.
What we're looking at potentially doing is, after we award the contract, maybe expanding the scope a little bit to see if we can move up to 6th Street so that we would get either side. The worst sections of F are actually between 4th and 5th, and then 5th and 6th.
Okay.
And we're doing a small portion of those with the E Street project, or with the 5th Street project.
Copy.
To kind of tie in, but so we're trying to adjust those limits, and that's actually one of the things that Jim and myself and Councilmember Buttercavalli went out and we walked the whole section last week, and we discussed some of these things. But the way it works is, we have to award based on the bids available, and then after we award, we can potentially change the scope with the contractor, but the award has to be completed based on what we bid. And we bid it out. We had 5 bidders on the project, and the first 2 bidders were within $5,000 of each other, with a total bid of $800,000. That was pretty close bidding. All the bids were fairly close together, except for one bidder was quite a bit more. That was DeSilva Gates. So I think we got a competitive price. It's a local contractor, Lehman Construction out of
May I ask you something real quick? Thank you on that. Before we go into the scope of work, and I appreciate that. We've exhausted the funds of SB1 funding as well as the matching funds for these particular projects. Is that what I'm understanding, Jennifer?
Well, we have not yet. We've been collecting SB1 funds since 2018.
Yeah, it's been at least 3 years.
The problem is SB1 funds have never been what they Sounded like they were gonna be.
We only
Right.
receive between 240 and around 220 to 240,000 per year. The only project that we have done, we spent 203,000 in fiscal year 1920 for 17th Street.
17th slurry, which
Yeah.
will be my next question. But
Correct. So we've collected around $715,000, about 760,000 in SB1 funds. We spent 203, so we have about 560,000 currently available to us. We do collect it on a monthly basis.
I get it.
So by the end of this next fiscal year, or this fiscal year we're in, if we didn't spend, I know we're moving forward with projects, but if we just left alone, we would have around $784,000 in there. So
Okay.
we bring in around 20 to 22,000 per month that collect into this.
So that was kind of, thank you, Jennifer. Because you said that one of the aspects of the projects got a little shortchanged. Did I understand you correctly? That you said of A, B, C, D, that we couldn't financially reach the scope of what we wanted?
Yeah, the total bid, including Schedule D on the lowest bidder was, what was it, 806?
Okay, then that's where it shortchanged.
So that was, well beyond what our funds available, so we'd have to dip into general fund for another source of that.
Okay.
And we were kind of looking at it from the other aspect that the SB1 funds can be used for matching funds on other projects,
Right.
or we can kind of pull it together. I know Jim's been looking at, was it ARPA funds for
American Recovery Act
for some
funds.
of the stuff, and we still have the grant in for the TDBG for the roads projects in kind of in the minor park area.
Yes, yeah.
And
Okay.
then, like I said, we do have Fifth Street moving forward, so you have a lot of moving parts, and we wanted to keep some SB1 reserve, in case it's needed for one of those other projects, and then also to possibly put together another project. I know we've been looking at, where to go from here.
Well, I got another project there, anyways.
Well, we got a lot. That's the problem, is there's so many projects, you got to pick one.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Jennifer. I think that answers most of my questions financially. Now it kind of goes into the scope of the work. I was here when we did the 17th Street slurry seal, which we received a little bit of flack on, which c'est la vie. It is what it is.
Yeah, this is a little bit different. This is basically we kind of
grind
went
out.
to the other end of the spectrum on the maintenance. This is all pure overlay.
Overlay, so it's not a grind out or just overlay?
It's overlay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're not.
So we're doing what they call micro grinding, which is a higher number of teeth in the machine, and it's a profile grind of the street.
Mhm.
Part of the problem we have with B and First is they were overlaid at one point, and
Yes.
it's not the overlay is coming apart. So we're going to grind through the overlay, reprofile the street, put down pavement reinforcement fabric, which helps bridge any issues after we've made the small pavement repairs in some of the areas, and then we're going to overlay the street. And that's what we're doing on basically the three segments that we have. Part of what drives the cost up with doing an overlay is you get into what we call raising the iron.
Yeah.
So you have all the manholes, water valves, centerline monuments, all those things that when you do an overlay of a street, you have to adjust them to the new grade. And that's a high percentage of the cost on a lot of these jobs.
Yeah.
As opposed to, the slurry seal or the seal coat was the cheapest option, and this is kind of the.
We're beyond that now.
Yeah, this is the highest.
Yes.
We looked at one in the middle that was kind of a micro pave rubber chip, but we never actually did a segment of that.
So understanding that it's a micro seal and not a full grind out, which is you're the engineer. I'll defer to that. Have we taken into consideration with any sort of anytime I dig, I always find something like a pipe or something like that. Is there any of that taken into consideration? I know that Cal Water goes there. I know we got some avocado lines.
Just grinding. You're only grinding 1.5 inches down.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we do have a contingency that's in our
There's a contingency of around 44,000 included on top
included
of it.
in the requested amount.
So thank you. Obviously, if we award this to the bidder, what's the start and completion date?
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance. I was talking to the bidder last week, and based on the schedule, but they're looking at proceeding as soon as possible because of the time of year.
Sure.
So if they mobilize, if they're able to mobilize the next week or two, it's probably only a 3 to 4 week process. So
the whole thing start to finish as a month max.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
And we have, never mind. Awesome. Thank you. That's all I got.
Is that, I mean, a month, 6 weeks roughly, time frame?
Yeah.
Depends. Is that on all A, B, and C?
Correct.
That we'd approve?
Yeah,
So-
they would just basically move right through. They'd probably do the first and B and then jump over and do the next segment, you know.
So we'd have new streets before Christmas?
It should be, yeah.
Possible. Merry Christmas, Marysville.
Yeah.
Great. I have been an advocate of getting streets paved, and if this is what we could get done right now, rock and roll, I'm all on board, 110%.
And like I said, we met with Councilmember Bud Cavalli, and he was very excited about the potential to get things moving, and this is high on his priority. So I know. And like I said, we'll be bringing in 5th Street soon. So
I have a related question since we're repairing a street. I don't think D Street between 9th and 14th is a truck route. And
No.
and it's just one of the many streets.
No, actually the truck route is 1 block over in front of my office.
E Street, yeah. and I see, and that's not just that street, but other streets in that neighborhood, big, heavy vehicles going down those streets. I mean, a couple trailers loaded up, taking shortcuts. What's that do? Because we're just doing overlays. We're not going down and doing new road bed or anything.
Yeah.
What does that do to our streets when those folks do that? I presume it damages it bit by bit.
Yeah, you know, whenever you're figuring the life of a road, it's really equivalent axle load is what they call it. You know, the day-to-day traffic of the cars doesn't really count into it. I mean, in a lot of East Marysville, the hardest thing on the streets is the trash trucks, to be honest with you, and you know, and that's part of the problem with, you know, our there's 3-tiered recycle system is you're getting 3 times the amount of truck traffic on a lot of those really thin streets. Luckily, most of the stuff in West Marysville is actually a pretty thick section, and it's less impacted by it. But we do have signs on all the streets coming off of the state highway, identifying that G's only a truck route up to, it goes from 10th to 11th, and then it pushes them over to E, and then like 14th Street's a truck route from E to B. But other than that, there's no identified truck route. And I know we ran into this with problems with like Caltrans project down in Riverfront Park, where they're using 14th Street as a truck route in and out of there. And we've made it aware that they should use Biz Johnson and go out on F. And so it's a short route over to the state route, but a lot of times their truck drivers don't follow that. And that's one of the things we're actually trying to work with them and the juvenile hall project for doing some work on 14th Street between the railroad tracks and the levee there in front of the juvenile facility, because as part of the development of that facility, they're responsible for the half width of the street improvements, which needs to be brought up to standards. So we're trying to use that project as a means of taking care of that piece of street. But we also were trying to push Caltrans, because they've been using it for their bridge project right now, where they hauled out I don't know, it's 200,000 tons of riprap, and they're hauling a lot of material in and out of there. And I know they say all the trucks don't go that way, but you know, I've personally seen 10 trucks in a back to back going down 14th Street. So you know.
Exactly. I will read the recommendation once again. Pass a motion to adopt an appropriately numbered resolution awarding a contract in the amount of
$441,843.80.
with Lehman Construction, Inc. for the construction of 2021 SB-1 resurfacing project 21-02 based on the improvement plans and contract documents, bid schedules A through C attached in our packet. Will of the council.
Move to approve.
Oh, we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Clerk,
I'm
that's unanimous.
excited.
John, thank you so very much.
Yeah.
John. Yeah, we already did that.
Oh, we just did that.
That was awfully quick one.
Yeah, he's right.
Unanimous. I mean, you guys are quick. And John, again, I want to thank you for your patience with the schedule this evening. Very kind of you.
Oh yeah, well, I could have come up. I could have submitted a card. I had plenty of stories. We've had homeless people living in a parking lot, living all the way around a building, damaging our vehicles. You go down the list.
You're a good sport. Thank you, sir.
Okay, if you have any leftover money though, man, Highway 20 and East 22nd, right there.
That's actually, in our meetings and our discussion, East 22nd, we're trying to see how far, and that may be the potential ARPA project is we're trying to see. That was what we first targeted with the grant for the CDBG.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that
too far away.
We what do you call it?
There's a commercial or
the census tract for that area didn't meet the requirements for the CDBG tract. So that's why we shifted south to go over by Minor Park and pick up off of East, Highway 20 East 12th Street and start there. But yeah, that was our original submittal, and what had happened is they just redone the census tract in that area, and that the census tract fell out of the whatever it was, the 75th percentile that it needed to be able to get the grant funds for that. But no, that's definitely our next segment that we.
Okay, any leftover asphalts, just put it in the big potholes that my boat almost jumps out of every time I hit it. That's it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, John. Guys, ladies.
Thanks again, John. We will now move to item number 3 on the action and discussion calendar. And the recommendation is to pass a motion to initiate a code revision to regulate barbed wire and other security fencing as a matter of some urgency and in advance and independent of the general plan and zoning code update. And this is at the request of the Planning Commission. Hold on just a moment. You're going to present this now. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Richardson. And again, thank you, sir, for your patience with our schedule this evening.
That's fine. Any baseball fans?
Oh, you bet.
All right.
No
Boston,
games till tomorrow night.
Boston won the playoff game, so the wild card game. So just let you know.
Oh, Boston?
Boston beat the Yankees. So okay, that's important.
Oh, I'd forgotten that game was tonight. Oh my.
The other thing is the movie was The Network that Howard Beale said he was.
What was it?
Mad as hell. And
what was the score of the game?
It was 6-2.
It wasn't even close.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
My word.
Well,
In Boston too.
Since you're full of answers, what's the name of the Angels that you were referencing? Sorry.
The Guardian Angels, whatever they were.
Yeah, they're still active. One of their founder is running for mayor of New York City. Yeah.
Okay, you can click.
Anyway,
so
Paul,
I'm going to try to run through this PowerPoint real quick. I know this is the last item and you're anxious to go home, but again, as the mayor indicated, this is a recommendation from the Planning Commission, basically to initiate a zoning study to develop zoning code requirements for barbed wire fencing. And you can go to the next one. You can go number 2. Go to,
Sure, please.
Where did this originate from? The Planning Commission brought it up?
Yeah, well, I'm going to,
never mind.
All your answers will be answered with this presentation. So again, the consideration before the council is whether or not to initiate a zoning study for barbed wire. And the reason is the Planning Commission doesn't direct staff and doesn't direct budget. The council is authorized to do that. You're supposed to be on number 2. I promised him I was going to whip through this. Okay, that's number. Okay, that's fine. So how this started was there was code complaints on the Hart Building fence, the parking lot on East Street back to the city got complaints that barbed wire and chain link were going next to the subway, and we actually got several complaints when we went out there. Sure enough, the fence had barbed wire and was chain link. In the city right now, you don't require a building permit for fences, but all fences in the historic district and the design review area are required to get design review approval. So as part of that code enforcement action, staff brought the fence forward to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission made a decision. First, they required along the front East Street that the fence on the Hart Building be wrought iron and not chain link fence and barbed wire, but they did allow the barbed wire and chain link on the alley, the service area of the property, and they did allow a couple of strands of barbed wire across the concrete block. But as part of that action, they requested staff to bring back a consideration for actually coming up with some controls, because there really are no controls on barbed wire. In fact, if you go to the next slide, I think it shows that the only references to barbed wire are to control farm animals, and that's the only code they have in barbed wire in Marysville, is to control farm animals. Yes, and John left. his group manages levy commission. But in general, barbed wire and that kind of razor wire and concertina wire is generally considered kind of incompatible in commercial districts, particularly if you have a high pedestrian area. They're more appropriate in manufacturing or areas like that. And so the Planning Commission at the subsequent meeting on a 4-0 vote recommended the City Council initiate a zoning study to develop codes for barbed wire and fence policy. So you can go to but that was the Levy Commission. That's on the corner of B and 1st, right down the street from Councilmember Gilmer's property. Where we're going with this, if we do end up having the Planning Commission come up with a plan, I think that we're talking about having these particular businesses mandate their change, whatever decided. That's a good question. So right now, technically, every fence in the downtown is subject to design review approval. And I'm here to tell you, we don't require building permits, and there are examples all over the downtown of wrought iron, steel tubing, chain link fencing. Well, even on the Levy Commission, he said they've actually got rolled razor wire up there. All of that is technically subject to design review, but because the city doesn't require a building permit for fences, and most cities don't, a lot of it goes unnoticed. And the only reason it comes up if the city is responding to a complaint. Like your adjacent business, my neighbor put up a complaint, we would go back out and investigate it and tell them, you need to get design review approval for this fence. But as a practical matter, until we get a complaint, we don't respond to it. And that's what happened in the Hart Building. So the answer to your question is, are we going to retroactively go out and catch everyone? That's a question of policy. There's a whole series of ways to address that. One is you can grandfather in existing barbed wire fence. 2, you can amortize it. You can say, this technically never received approval. However, we're going to let you keep it for 2 years, in which time you come up with an acceptable fence. Or 3, you go out there and initiate code enforcement and said this was never approved. You need to come forward with a design review application and submit a fence design for consideration of the city. But that would all be spelled out in theory in a future ordinance. The council can provide direction when initiating the zoning study to say, if we do this, how you would like to handle the existing conditions.
So you're talking about potentially doing this for all
all the historical overlay or just commercial?
That is again, a policy recommendation. I can tell you a couple, or for instance, Yuba City right across the river, they only outright prohibit it in commercial districts. In manufacturing districts, they allowed barbed wire provided it's not on the street frontage, right in their code. I would probably recommend, if it was me, that it only be in the design review area, the downtown commercial area. And I would make different restrictions for manufacturing because they have different issues. They have open storage, things like that, provided it's not highly visible to the traveling public. I don't know that I would have make the same restrictions in the manufacturing district that I would for downtown commercial district, where you have a lot of pedestrian activity.
Sure, in downtown, I understand right there on our main drag. I'm concerned because a lot of the M1 zoning that I'm aware of does have at least 3 different locations where the barbed wire, one has a setback of 6 feet off the road. I mean, I had barbed wire in my business and it looked like a prison. That's why I got rid of it. Yeah. But I was only after a year of me making enough money to get rid of it. Because barbed wire is considerably less expensive than wrought iron. And I just see this also becoming a two-headed sword a little bit with a lot of our issues of having people, homeless situations, people popping in their backyard and so forth. I mean, I've thought about putting razor wire back at the top of my fence or glass like they do in Mexico or something. It's not people climbing my fence, but I just got to see where you're going. Thank you.
Okay, well, you know what? Why don't you advance that next slide? I think so. This is the PG&E building, and they actually did come forward with design review, and they proposed and was approved that wrought iron fence. And you're right, it's a more expensive option than chain link and barbed wire, but it provides the same, if not more, security, and it's a more attractive contribution to the downtown.
Well, they got the money. Just look at my electric bill every year. So yeah, I get that.
Well, quick question.
Okay, so I will abandon the presentation at this point.
I think you made a point. I'm curious, as a matter of some urgency, where'd that come from?
Okay, well, that was my language that I gave to them, but I gave them 3 options, which you also have the same 3 options. You are getting ready to initiate a comprehensive general plan and zoning code update. Yeah. Normally what you would do is say, okay, we want these 3 issues addressed or 4 issues addressed.
Was that the consensus of the planning commission?
Yeah, there were 4 members of the commission present and they voted 4-0. So it was a unanimous decision of the quorum that was there.
So there's 7 members of the commission, right?
Correct.
And 4 of them were there, and okay.
And you have the peculiar 4 affirmative votes action. So all 4 was there and all 4 voted.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, well.
But I can give you if you look at, why don't you skip down to the last slide if you can.
I'm trying to save you some time.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you went, okay. So I don't know if you can see this. So the planning recommendation is you initiate the zoning study. We would kick it off now. An alternative is you can say, well, this is something we don't think it's quite that urgent, but we would like to consider it, but we don't want to advance it in front of the general plan and zoning update that's down the line. And the third option is you table the consideration altogether. You don't think it's a matter of urgency and you really don't want to direct it for a future study.
Well, when I saw this and I recognized that you're filling in part-time, am I correct? The economic development director's slot. And I don't want to see you distracted from other economic development activities because we make this an urgent matter. And that was one of my considerations, and that's my question. I mean, I think it's fine to look into this. I also believe that when we got a lot of evidence of a homeless and vagrancy and criminal activity problem in this city. I'm not going to tell anybody they can't protect their place with some barbed wire at the top of their fence right now. I think the timing would be, as a matter of urgency, out of place until we help solve some of the problems that cause people to feel insecure in their property. So, but if you think we ought to move this thing forward at some level, maybe not, you know, with the whip and an urgency, but at some level, I'd be okay with it. But there's priorities here, and I look at someone protecting their property, and I'm going to respect that for what it's worth. But I wouldn't be against this. If you're recommending this, I'm going to be open to it. And please go ahead.
Through the chair. Bob, Paul, help me understand, what are you asking here for? You're asking for a motion to allow you to make a decision with the commission?
The motion is to conduct a zoning study to develop barbed wire fence policy.
May I ask a quick one? How much of that your time is that going to take?
It's probably 100%.
Well then,
I mean, how much of my time?
Yeah, your time.
I will do it. No, it wouldn't be 100%. I mean, I can tell you what I'll do. You have a couple of other zoning codes in front of you that are in the staff report. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. I'll take some policy recommendations to the planning commission. How do you want to handle manufacturing districts? How do you want to handle the commercial districts? How do you want to handle residential districts? They'll provide some policy guidance on the direction, and then I'll borrow from some of these other codes.
Councilman Belzer, please.
But there's no ordinance on the table. Your charge here is whether the city should even go forward and study this. That's really what's being asked.
I understand. Thank you.
This is something that in the relatively near future, we're going to be digging into anyways because of the general plan update, right? So if this is the same way with like what I've talked about with the historical preservation code stuff, if this is something that we can get ahead of on that helps us expedite that process in the future, well, then let's do somewhat exploratory on this and figure it out. I'm not opposed to at least going exploratory on this and looking at different things. Yeah, right. Sure.
Oh, I have thoughts. I'm the Buffet Temple has the barbed wire, but then that is because it's so easy to jump over the fence from the levee. And then of course the levee commission building itself, Franklin Booth. However, Franklin Booth was discreetly hidden there and had a beautiful hedge they maintained. And so they're going to be building additional facilities with appropriate height buildings, but their yard has the barbed wire. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not that loud, so you can't hear me. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So that's okay. Yeah. So maybe yeah. So I'm going to stop.
A question to our parliamentarian. It's interesting enough, perhaps, to where come back at a later meeting and say you've looked into it and this is the general direction, or do we want to drop it? I mean, do we want, it could take a friendly amendment to to the recommendation. This urgency thing makes it sound like, you know, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, right? And we have, again, the general plan coming up, as has been mentioned. I don't know.
Whenever you have a motion, you can always make a motion for the opposite of the proposal, or you can have no motion at all, in which case no action is taken, and the matter can either come back or not.
What's the will of the council?
Stand by, Mayor. We got public here, but I got one more.
Yeah, it's a public
Did
hearing.
we ask for public? I thought I asked
No.
for public comments.
So
Well, it's okay. I've made mistakes before and I'll make them again. Okay, we have some public comment.
All right, I will clarify. As a matter of urgency was really, they wanted it to be taken up in advance of the comprehensive zoning code update.
I understand that.
I don't think they were, desperate to go.
Thank you, Paul.
Through the chair, one more question, please, before.
Please go ahead.
I mean, please come on up.
Come on, Kelly, get up there.
So we're saying that however the motion goes, is that this could just be a simple amendment of the current lack of an ordinance, or does it have to go through a motion? Grant.
I think they need the approval to go ahead. If I may.
Your mic.
Oh, my mic. Okay. Council, does this require this kind of action for them to start looking at this?
If you want to invest time in studying it early, I believe they want council blessing. That's why they're here.
Okay, that nails this, that narrows it down. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
And we
I
will
yield.
You are now recognized, Mr.
Okay, that's what I was
And
gonna.
I apologize. I didn't mean to overlook.
No, I know you didn't mean that. I just wanted to clarify that why the urge, I think, because I didn't think you were hearing that. And I can relate to you being opposed to it. I can totally, with the amount of.
Cautious is a better word.
Cautious to the, no, against moving forward because of what we're experiencing right now with barbed wire, they can protect. So I just wanted to bring up these two things that I didn't hear mentioned that I hope you will consider. Someone brought up Paul raising the fence instead of barbed wire. The other things there are to do that are less expensive that we didn't think of yet was security cameras can be added. Motion sensors with noise can be added to deter that. And we got the clarification of why the word urgency. And I agree if we were going to be doing some studies for the general plan and updating that. My knowledge is we don't allow it now anyways. It's happening because people are just doing it, right? Is that correct? So that's why it's happening. But I see it, this is the part we haven't pointed out. We have a problem with code enforcement right now in our city because we have a lack of staff, right? Mainly why? And it looks bad as Councilman Gilchrist pointed out. It does. Barbed wire is awful. So is junk in alleys and all the other stuff that we're all aware of. But that's what it falls into. And that kind of is, even in your book, I think, Mr. Mayor, an urgent problem that we need to address when the time is right and we can address it. So let's get a head start on this and get the okay to take a look at it because it is unattractive and we don't want people just putting it up and not being held accountable for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see here. I want to make sure I've not skipped over anything here. Oh, we have another public comment. Good Lord.
Thank you, Mayor. The next speaker actually forwarded their information via email. So this is from Judy Mann. Her thoughts on barbed wire fence. I have to point out that this type of fencing not only makes Marysville a look of desertion and defaces the building and invites vandalism. I think I can explain it this way with a sample. Our historic Packard Library was recently fenced with barbed wire fence. Today, it's in the worst state than ever. It's been vandalized, broken into, and now boarded up ever since that barbed wire fence went up. The intruders think that it's now occupied when a building is unoccupied. You are inviting intruders. Simple as that. Today, I walked by the Shell station on 5th Street. The intruders are now making it a safe haven for clothes and garbage and themselves. Think wisely on this issue. If you build it, they will come. End comment.
Thank you for that. And again, I don't have strong feelings one way or another. It's timing. And a quick question to our colleague, Councilman Gilchrist. Are you here to speak to this topic? Oh, please join us. Name and city of residence.
Kelvin Scruggs. I'm a resident of Marysville. I'm a recent transplant, 6 years, employee at Beale Air Force Base. And I would like to make a comment about the coding for fencing. As a new resident here, one of the things that I first noticed about this community is when I would see barbed wire, especially the Constantine wire that's around the Buckeye Temple, that immediately made me feel insecure in the area. Because I'm like, okay, when I was on the levee, and that's the first thing I see, I think of that as a prison. When I see Constantine wire, I think of a prison. And, you know, as I believe there are a lot of ways that we can be inventive to create the security that facilities need, but make it visually appealing. And I think that there are ways that, of course, you do have your different fencings that you could use, but you can also use hedging, different things like that that can be not only visually appealing, it can also give back to the air quality here and just make it pleasurable to be here versus feeling like you're in a prison. When I see barbed wire, Constantine wire, that raises images of being at war, being in a prison, and also being in a desolate area that, you know, that's for farm animals. And I don't think that's what you want to feel when you're in this community. That's
Sir,
all.
you are a terrific spokesman. You made that point so well. You've tipped me over. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Well said. Thank you. Okay. I do have one question about fencing as long as we're talking about it. Habitat for Humanity has a big fence around the south end of their property.
Mm-hmm.
Is it legal?
Yeah, the blue fence, the blue wrought iron fence. Yeah, they got approval for that. They went through design review and got approval for the fence. And there's actually some conditions on outdoor storage when they got that.
Yeah, do we know if they're meeting those conditions?
They're trying because a lot of the stuff has been removed.
I'll tell you what, so many people come to me and say, the first impression I have of Marysville is that junk trap.
Well, I mean,
and that junk trap is enabled by that fencing. And I'm sorry it got through design review. I'm sorry it got approved because it just invites exactly what they're doing.
Well, their use permit is they're not supposed to have any outdoor storage out there.
Yeah. Well, then they might lose the whole damn thing. That thing infuriates me. Okay, well, I wanted that question answered. Yes, sir.
Okay. No, go ahead. I'm ready.
Will the council?
I'd like to pass a motion to initiate code revision on this. I would like to, yes. Pass
motion to approve.
Yes,
okay.
Motion to approve.
We have a second. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Very good. Paul, again, thank you very much for your time. We got you on the docket later, but you were effective. And Kelly, thank you. Sir, I didn't catch your name too well, but great presentation. Thank you. let's see. I have already read the preamble to the community and consent calendar, so we're going to move straight into it. And we've offered opportunity for public comment. That has passed.
Have we?
And
I'm sorry, did we offer for public comment on the consent calendar? Oh, maybe
that was consent calendar and everything else. It was all opened up.
I'm a little backwards here. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor. I do apologize. We had a late attendee who is raising his hand at the moment. Would you entertain the comment?
On what?
For public consent?
On what?
He's just raising his hand via Zoom. I don't know the topic.
Give him 3 minutes. We're not going to turn anybody down now.
Charles Sharp, you are good.
Oh, thank you very much. Charles Sharp from Oregon Health. I can tell you from a tourism point of view, you don't want the place to look like a prison with the barbed wire fences. You want it to look attractive and nice, and that will invite people to tour the city and look around and spend the money and like the place. And
Mr. Sharp, if I can interrupt, we have just passed a motion in line with your feelings.
I know I was a little late I tried to raise my hand. It didn't, but I just wanted to add that comment if that's okay.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent calendar. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and therefore approved by one motion unless a council member or the city manager first request that a matter be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Will of the council.
Make a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Okay, we have been through, let's see, council correspondence before we get to this other stuff. Nothing that we haven't already seen? I'm going in round order.
Okay. Council correspondence, yes. Thank you, Mayor. Each council member has received a letter from Karen Liggett regarding the Townhouse Motel in your corresponding inbox here at City Hall.
Thank you. City Manager's report, anything?
Good evening. I just wanted to put on public record. I know I sent an email to all the council members earlier, but just wanted to let the community know that the fire chief has let us know that the city is starting to burn the levees this month. It started this afternoon and will continue through the end of the month. We do not have a schedule because it's dependent on staff and dependent on getting approval from the Feather River Air Quality Management District before we burn. So we just wanted to let people know that they do see that there is continual burning controlled burning happening on the city levees.
Has that been, has there been a press release to the two publications that serve the area so that they can put it in their papers?
I will follow up with Chief Carlin and find out if that has happened.
That's a good idea. Okay, we can return to, let's, first we'll do any committee reports. Anybody want to report on committee action?
I'll just make a comment on it just because it kind of pertains, and Councilman Gilchrist mentioned it too, that on the topic of this. So in our committee meeting with Chamber of Commerce today, I'm sorry, Johnny Burke did speak. And he did have, and I'll say this, if we talk about going to a town hall, he did have a lot of useful statistics about the population, and I think it'd be beneficial for not just us, but for the public to hear some of the statistics that he had, because it answers some questions. And I understand there's maybe a disdain in other areas in regards to what the consortium does, but there's some real statistical data that will help as we move forward. And he gave a fantastic presentation today, and I would be in agreement with Councilman Gilchrist to at least give an opportunity for a moment, 5 minutes, or whatever. But that's I'm
no, thank you.
Dipping into another thing, but that's the only committee reports. I would say too that
and I already spoke to it already in council comments, but because it was kind of underneath our recreational committee about the success of the ballpark cleanup down there, and that will be a revenue generating area, which is part of the focus and the purpose of this recreational committee that was created. So I'm excited to see that become a revenue generator for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
No committee reports.
Sure.
I have community reports. Yuba County Recreation, the Yuba County Office of Education has a recreation director, Greg Ferguson, who is funded through a grant for 3 years to provide recreation for youth risk within the city of Marysville. And he is working on some very exciting projects in the Yuba County Library. One of them is a science lab. They're going to make goop. They're going to make, what is that green stuff, that sticky stuff? Slime, thank you. So he's doing a workshop with slime and also creating a solar car rally. So this is very exciting. Yuba County Library, of course, is being remodeled for the use for youth. And I think this is very exciting. And I, am on both of those committees, and that's happening as we speak. There is another committee that is putting together a bronze statue of Cotton Rosser, and we're at the phase of starting fundraising. And soon we'll have a set of plans to go before us to approve that location. And so this is exciting because, we've started the process through Yuba-Sutter Arts and Council. And that's oh, and then there's going to be some signs through the Yuba County Historic Committee, some Wayfair signage for historic locations in the city of Marysville, the Marysville portion of the Three Rivers Trail. Mary Aaron Museum is working with Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture on this project. It's very exciting. I hope you guys got that.
We, unless anybody wants to continue their earlier council comments, I like the council comments at the front end.
Yes.
Okay. Get used to it.
Thank you.
I like it that way. Let's see. The next regular meeting will be held Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Get some sleep. That's going to be a real meeting. It's going to take some time. There's a bunch, many significant items on that agenda. Adjourned. Thank you.
We can show you how. Live streaming can be simple and not expensive. You may already have the basic tools right in your hand. But it's more than just pushing live to communicate effectively. That's where Yuba-Sutter.live and Live Streaming YS on Facebook can help you. Make it easy to jump in. Just give us a call at 530-301-2931 or visit our website, www.yuba-sutter.live. Yuba-Sutter's home of live streaming and live streaming tools, live streaming services, technology, and training. Live streaming is Yuba-Sutter.live. All aboard!